Bi'ur Mishnah Zayin. Explanation from Mishnah Zayin. Cheres. What about clay? How much clay do you have to take out in order to be obligated from the Torah? Hamotzi cheres shiuro, the one who takes out clay, this is the measurement. Kedei liten ben patzim lechavero, in order to put between the patzim, the 2x4s, to his friends. If you go to Home Depot, you're going to see that the beams don't stand on one another, because then it's going to be hard to take the beam off the other one. So what do they put? They put little sheaves. Today they put the sheaves out of wood, small little wood between them, so you'll be able to pick them up off each other. So they used to use clay for that. Underneath on each corner, they used to use clay. So it says how much you need, like a marble over here, a marble over there, as long, whatever the smallest use was for clay. This is the smallest use they had for clay, so that if you take this one out on Shabbat, then you're obligated. If it's less than this, there's no use. Nobody's using it. There's no obligation. Patzin hainu amud o korah. They are beams. כשמסדרים עמודים או קורות זה על זה, when you put beams one on top of another, או זה על יד זה, or one next to each other, אם יש חלל בין אחד לחברו, מניחם שם חרס. If there's space between one and another, you put a piece of clay over there. Why? שלא יתעקמו. So that they're not going to bend. ויש מפרשים, פצים. Some say פצים are not beams. What are פצים? חצי לבנה. They're half bricks. כשיש חלל בין חצאי לבנה, when there's a space between half bricks, ממלאים אותם בחרסים ואבנים דקים. You fill them up with small gravel. So the smallest amount of gravel, that's what you'll be obligated for. דברי רבי יהודה. This is the words of Rabbi Yehuda. V'shiuro shiur mu'atu. And the measurement is very tiny. The measurement for that is a very tiny. Rabbi Meir Omer, כדי לחטות בו את האור. Rabbi Meir says, no, that's not the minimum requirement. The minimum requirement is much larger. What's the requirement? Because, again, Rabbi Meir, it's the same conversation we had before. He said it's not really a tool. It's something to fill out a brick. The brick itself is the important. It's like the tooth of the key. That's not the whole vessel. It's not important. There's no importance to it. So it says, what's the first vessel that it's important that you use with clay? So they say you use shards of clay when it was next to your fireplace to move little coals. So you have a small little shard of clay, the smallest shard of clay you would use to move the coals. כדי לחטות בו את האור, in order to move with it the coals, להעביר בו גוחלים בוערות, ממקום למקום, to move with it the coals from one place to another, ואין חוטים אלא בחרס גדול, and you're only going to do that, but it has a measurement, not like a small little pebble. You cannot hold a small little pebble and move the coal. It has to have a certain little measurement so you can move it. Rabbi Yossi Omer, it needs to be even bigger than that. What's the measurement for Rabbi Yossi? כדי לקבל בו רביעית, in order to receive in it a quote. It's like a vessel that receives a clay, says clay you use for vessels, you don't use it for anything else. So if you're talking about vessels, the smallest vessels you would use, says even that, the movement of the coat, you would use a broken vessel for it. Yeah? So it's not complete. So the smallest thing that is a vessel that you'll be obligated is the smallest cup you can get. Like a shot cup. This is what it will be. A shot cup is the smallest one. halug מים, והוא שיעור מועט משיעורו של רבי מאיר. And this is even less than רבי מאיר. אמר רבי מאיר say, אף על פי שאין ראיה לדבר. It says, even though there's no proof for my thinking, for what I said, שאין ראיה גמורה מן המקרא דלהלן. Actually, it looks like it's the opposite. The short cup is smaller than the coal stuff. Yeah? So Rabbi Meir, who says it's the coal, is the thing that you move the coal with, says, אף על פי שאין ראיה לדבר, even though there's no proof for my words, אין ראיה גמורה מן המקרא דללן, אבל יש זכר לדבר. But there is a remembrance to the things. Let me explain this. This is an interesting concept. It comes up in Halacha and in the Gemara hundreds of times. It's called an asmachta. An asmachta, just like in Hebrew, it says somech, smuchot. Smuchot means support. In other words, if that was your only proof, the judge wouldn't listen to it. But after you have other proofs, the judge will use this one as a support to your idea. In other words, you will not be able to give it as a proof. But if you have other proofs, and you also have this, the judge says, you know what, I'm going to add it to this one. This is called an asmachta. So the discussion between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Meir, they have both ideas. Now let's discuss how did they get to this measurements. Now most probably some of them might be from Moshe from Sinai. Moshe came down from the mountain and told them this is what the measurements are for certain things, and some of them are just this is what the rabbis do. They're experts, and they will tell you what's the smallest thing that they would be used for. And that's how they will find out. But over here, they have a disagreement. But Rabbi Meir says, I have a support for my disagreement. So with the support that I have for my disagreement, I'm going to out-trump the other sage. Even though right now we're equal in logic, but my support is going to put me over the top. So let's see which support he brings. רמז, he brings the רמז לדברים ממה שנאמר. From what it says. I think this is in Yeshaya. In the prophet Yeshaya, it says, ולא ימצא במחתתו, and it says, and it should not be found in his, מחתתו means in his broken parts, חרס לחטות אש מיקוד, even a clay to grind, to move around the fire. So let's just explain this. First of all, what is Rabbi Yeshaya is talking about? Yeshaya over here is rebuking the Jewish nation. And Yeshaya says that, you know what, you guys are going to, that in his time, the people were like Ukraine. Corruption was all over the place. You know, so he was telling to you, you guys are going to continue to be corrupted. Continue. Yeah, you know what's going to happen? Russia is going to come in, and you know what's going to remain of you? Nothing. They're going to erase you completely. You know how much? That even the smallest vessel, the clay that you would use, that vessel will not be there anymore. They will crush it and make it into dust. That's how bad it's going to be. So this is what he's telling them. We can use today Ukraine and Russia. It's exactly the same thing. You want corruption? You like it? See what happens. That's what pretty much Yeshaya is telling the Jewish people. He says, don't be Ukraine. But from over here, what do we see? You see that Yeshaya looks at the cheres as the smallest tool. He says, even that you're not going to have. Even that, the smallest tool will not remain there. It will be, even that will be crushed. From here we see that it was a tool, that it was a use to move around the fire. And therefore you're obligated if you take out this measurement. In other words, what will Rabbi Yossi tell him? Rabbi Yossi says, no, I still disagree with you. Nobody is going to use cheres as a tool. Once something breaks, you will use that as the tool. But you're not going to make a tool out of cheres just to move the coals. That's pretty much the disagreement between them. So Amar, but over here now, he brought a proof from where? From the Torah itself, from Yeshaya, that cheres is a tool. It's the smallest tool. That says even the smallest tool you're not going to have. So what's Rabbi Yossi going to do now? He's in trouble. If he wants his system to, which means that it's a cup, a small little cup, he has to bring a proof. So where is it? Again, the proof is not going to help. It's just going to be an asmachta. Amar lo Rabbi Yossi le Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi says to Rabbi Meir, Misham raya. From this we have a proof. Mipasuk ze. From this verse, אתה רוצה להביא קצת ראיה לדבריך? You want to bring an asmachta to your words? You want to add a little proof from this verse to what you said before? הרי שם מסיים הכתוב, it says, I use the same verse for my proof. It says, what does it say in the same verse? ולחשוף מים מגבה. The verse says you're not going to have enough clay to move the coals, or you're not going to have enough vessels to even take a little water out of the well. There's not going to be any vessel. So I'm using the second part. And the second part is the smaller vessel. It's a smaller amount. So therefore you should go with mine. ולחשוף מים מגבה, לדלות מים מן הגומה, to take water out from the well. שהמים נקבצים בה, that the water, it's on a well, it's a hole, that the water gets collected in it. ומכאן שיש גם חשיבות בחרס, אם אפשר לקבל בו מים. Therefore, any clay that can hold at least a quart of water, that's enough. It doesn't need to have a certain measurement. אם אפשר לקבל. אין הלכה כרבי יוסי. And the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, which means you don't need to have a large measurement. Any measurement as long of clay, as long as it can hold a quart of which is a very small amount, it's a vessel. You don't need something larger than that. That's the measurement amount.